Welcome to Autofocus. We are here today with our friend Travis Peeples.
Howdy.
Nice to meet you, Travis.
Oh, nice to meet you.
I know, even though I've known you, I think for like over a decade.
Oh, probably two.
Yeah, at this point, yeah. So, yes, but for everybody out here
yes,
who doesn't know who Travis Peeples is, why don't you tell everyone who you are and what you do?
All right. Well, my name's Travis Peeples, and I own Triple Double Productions. We're a video production content creating company and located in Central Arkansas. And we do everything from small business people's product photos all the way up to political ads and corporate videos and things like that.
Awesome. How did you get started, like in video?
So my first job that related to video was at the University of Arkansas for their media department, which is on the global campus down there on the square in where it was. I don't think it's there anymore, but that's where it was when I worked there. And they had all kinds of projects that they would do. The big one that they were working on when I first got there was a documentary about Silas Hunt, which is what the admissions building on campus is named after, because he was the first Black person admitted to a land-grant university. And so they were doing that at the time when I got hired there. But yeah, at that particular job, they had cinematographers, they had audio engineers, they had full on just regular engineers, and then of course directors and things like that too. And we had studio space kind of over by the stadium, production truck, graphics truck, satellite truck. It was pretty.
They were its own trucks.
Yeah.
So there was like 3 trucks.
Yeah. And they were all parked down by that studio that's kind of behind the police station over there.
Okay. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was, my first experience with that type of thing. And it was great in a lot of ways because it was like immediate industry standard, like experience. Like when any of the athletics would have an uplink to ESPN because they want to, interview a quarterback or something, we would go handle that. And so I got to see how people set up in a studio, especially that would get to be on ESPN later that night or CBS or whoever it might be. And so those were really cool experiences, because you get to play around with some really high end equipment and things like that. But it also kind of ruined me because once you sort of think that's the way things go, when it's not like that, you're like, where's all the things that make things cool? So, but yeah, that was how I got started. And it was great to be able to learn from people that really cared about what they did and had passion about their job, because they would always want that bar to be as high as possible when it came to production value. And I learned a lot of great stuff from them from that.
Yeah. What was it like working with like a big team? I don't think I've ever worked on a large video team before.
So it's great because like I said, the production value of what you start making goes way up. When everyone is really good at their specific thing that they do and everyone's free to just do their one thing and do it well, and you can focus solely on that, you get a really good product out of that. And when you work well as a team and everyone's pulling their weight like that, it just makes it amazing. But of course, I can't imagine trying to pay for all that with my overhead and like wrangle all those people and all that other stuff. I mean, the call sheet's one thing, but like, when you're dealing with studio cameras that have $250,000 lenses on them, I'm like,
yeah,
nervous. I didn't think about it at the time, but now I'm like, I can't believe they ever let me touch those things.
Yeah, I know. What was your job there? Like, what did you specifically, what was your specialty?
Well, when they first hired me, it was literally that building that they were in had so many other, like they would host conferences and live events and things like that. There was a theater in there too. And so they would host plays and things, and they rent out that theater to like Theater Squared, and people were like, I don't even know if that's still a thing anymore.
Oh yeah, they have a huge building now.
Yeah, well, yeah. So they used to do their shows in the theater there. And so for a long time, my job was to just facilitate all of those things that would happen. It was like my technical role was, or my title was multimedia technical specialist. And that basically meant I could set up the projectors in all the conference rooms, get them working and be the the tech guy in the building for people. But when we would do shoots and things like that, I was just basically a grip and a gaffer, and so whatever they needed, but I'd run cables. I can lay down some gaff tape like you would not believe.
I might need some pointers. I am so bad. I'm like, it's like, I feel like a cord always like rolls off and I'm like, no, come back.
Yeah, no, I got so good at that. It was like being a roadie, what I mean? But when they would, someone wouldn't be able to be on a shoot or something like that, I would get to fill in for any of those spots. And so in a way, I would get to learn all of the different, parts, whether there was audio or video or lighting or whatever it was. I would just fill in those gaps as needed. And again, getting to watch people do it, and graciously they would explain to me why they were doing whatever, or, what decision they were making and how that was affecting what was happening. It was all that sort of knowledge that I was picking up without realizing that I was getting it. And then that served me really well later, but it was really cool to be able to do that sort of stuff and sort of fill in. And then the editing part of it, I got to watch some really good editors. We had like a full on editing bay down in the basement.
Oh, wow.
It was crazy. And again, I just thought this is how things are, right?
Yeah.
And
how many editors were there?
There was 2 dedicated ones, and one of them, even though he was an editor, he was also one of the cam people, like one of the cam ops for the most part too. But the one dedicated editor, like as we'll talk about later, when I started training students to do all this, I started telling them, like, some people can sit behind that computer and edit for hours and they love it, right? Like that's their place. That's their happy place. That's not me.
No.
But those people that do, they make great editors and like graphics designers and motion graphics people, because they don't mind just sitting behind that desk for hours on end and just doing the most tedious to me things on earth. But he was amazing at it, and getting to watch somebody, like the way he would log footage, the way he'd go through it afterwards and sort of do his rough sketch and his rough outlines of things, and how his process was for that was pretty good to learn from, and something that I carried on and then inadvertently, or I guess verdantly, sort of passed on to the students that I then
That's awesome.
would teach to do that too.
Yeah, no, I remember. Yeah, I always wondered what it was like, to be like an editor when you weren't at the shoot. Because I feel like if you were at the shoot, like you saw what you were filming, and you knew how you were going to put it together later. Yep. And I can't imagine just like when we just like hand off our stuff to an editor, we're like, have fun. Here's the rough notes, and it's like, and like someone, so you really have to like understand like who you're working with, and like.
Yeah. And there's benefits and drawbacks to both of those ways of doing it. Yeah, if you're there and you can shoot for the edit and you know what's going to happen, then sure, it makes it a little bit easier. But also, I think having someone who wasn't there to see it all happen, make something out of all that and get it like into the same storyline or context that you were shooting for, like they're getting to look at all of your stuff with a fresh set of eyes. And so they might see things that you didn't see, or try and apply shots where maybe you wouldn't think they go, but they work better. If that makes sense, And so it's like a good editor, they will see all that stuff and build you something amazing, right? And so they don't really need to have that, as long as they can have their outline of like where you want to start here and end here.
Yeah, like this is the point of the video. Yeah.
And if you've done your job up front and you've built out your shot list and all that other stuff, then there should be not a whole lot of wiggle room. But personally, if I had to pick one, I would rather just be able to shoot and then hand it off to an editor. Yeah. I don't like getting the stuff and doing it. Although when I do edit, I tend to enjoy more that if I wasn't part of the shooting process, because then I get to like put the puzzle together without really having too much influence over what I'm trying to do.
That's cool. Yeah. It does. No. I'm definitely the type where like if I'm filming something and I have a vision, like I guess I'm a control freak. I want to control the whole thing throughout the whole thing, Yeah. No. And then you get to the feedback stage and you're like, fine. Right. I see what you're saying.
Have you ever heard the phrase of it's not finished being edited until your favorite shot is not in it anymore?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So it's like you got to let go of some of those things where you're like, but I really got that really sweet lens flare. And they're like, it doesn't serve what's happening. It's got to go. And you're like, but it looks awesome. And then they're like, no.
Like, can I put it in some beat? Can I put it in the bloopers? They're like, yeah.
I'm going to keep that for
can I put it in the trailer?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so, it was fun to be able to do those things and see those guys work. And one of the things I really came to appreciate afterwards was having 2 dedicated engineers who would fix our equipment when it would break.
Yeah.
Because once I didn't have those and things started not working the way I wanted to, I'm like, why can I not just hand this problem off to someone? Just fix it for me, And at the same time, I then have to learn a lot about the gear that I had to fix. So that's helped me in that way as well.
That's awesome. All right. So you started off at the UA and then you moved to where?
So then I got a job. My wife and I moved to Conway. She got a job at Hendrix and I got one there as well. And at the time, that role was basically another multimedia technical specialist is what they called it. But then the job description, when you start reading it, it turned into like, well, you're just going to make all of the videos that we do on campus here. And so it quickly evolved into that. But I also showed up and I went from having full on studio equipment and, you know, industry standard multi-million-dollar like equipment inventory to some Canon Vixia prosumer camcorders that you'll see out on the sideline of a soccer game.
Is it the one that had like this thing and you're just holding? Yes. That's awesome.
And the first thing that they had me do was they have this tradition right after Thanksgiving. It's gone on for 60 some odd years now, almost 70, that they call it the candlelight carol performance. And the choir performs a candlelight carol service in the chapel on campus, lit with candles. So not very well lit.
Which in person, it sounds very pretty and amazing, but to film it with a camcorder.
Yes. Well, and yeah, so they had like 2 of them. And of course, there's not much light and the camcorder does not like that. And they wanted to be live streamed. And it was, you know, the equipment that we had to do that was probably from the late 80s, early 90s. And this was in 2011. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, that first year I really had to do more with less. But, you know, we got it done. And then I immediately, after that was finished, was like, okay, first things first, we're just going to need to upgrade at least one of these cameras so that like the main camera can at least not struggle so badly. And, you know, little by little, we did that over the years and got it going. And so, by the time, you know, it's 14, 15 years later, now we have like, you know, the XA55s with SDIs out on them that do really well in the low light, and you can run those runs for as long as you need them to go. And we got them to put a little more light in the chapel.
Yes.
Just candles, which is good. And, you know, I still don't feel like it detracts from the vibe that's going on in there. Even though it's not fully just lit with candles, it still feels exactly like that. So, and it's really a really beautiful performance. And, I got to do it every year right before Christmas would start. And so it was always like my signal that Christmas
like this year we got to get the decorations out. Yeah.
Cause you'd walk in and there'd be like all the pews have these wreaths and little ribbons coming off of them. They'd set up a big tree right under their big stained glass behind the pulpit and stuff. And is just really nice, because then I would always think of those songs during Christmas time. So yeah, it was one of those things where, you know, it sort of is a struggle at the beginning, but then when you get the rhythm of doing it, you're like, oh, this is just like, and it's a nice like little kick to the thing, because you can just finish with Thanksgiving break. And then you're like, all right, let's do this one big thing. And then now it's Christmas time.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, I mean, and I was just wondering, like, how did you adjust, like, from going from like a huge team where everybody had like, they were like their own special thing, to basically a team of one where you were like, now it's me.
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely a shock and a big giant learning curve. And I asked that of my boss when I got hired. I was like, hey, you've got all this stuff. Well, who else is going to help me do it? And they were like, we have student workers who you can help you with it. And I'm like, cool. Which of them is like the video like professional? And they're like, none of them. And they're like, you're just going to have to train them. So it did take me a long time to wrap my head around being able to trust an 18 to 22-year-old to like do a job that they haven't been like working for very long. And, you know, unfortunately, in content creation world, when you make a mistake, it's pretty obvious, right? Everyone can see and hear it. So like, you know, it's not a lot of room to hide your mistakes. And so it took me a while, but at the same time, it was pretty gratifying to just get to like take a person who was brand new and be like, I'm just going to teach you from the ground up how we do it. And that way I'm not having to make you unlearn bad habits, things like that. You just know what I tell you is what. And let's just go and do it. And, you know, after that, it was just a matter of finding students who had a proclivity for that type of thing and then just watering that plant. But I got really good, like I was saying earlier, about picking people's strengths, what they were good at. So like if you show me that you like to sit behind there, I'd be like, let me show you around in Premiere and After Effects, you know, and here's the tools and here's all the guides and tutorials that you could use for it. I'm going to give you some jobs that I need for what we're doing, but feel free to sit here and learn.
Yeah.
Right?
Play. Yeah.
And I would tell them, we pay you the federal minimum wage to work here, but I will pay you by the hour to sit here and learn After Effects, So like, and then I would also tell them, especially if they started as freshmen, it's like, by the time you leave and graduate when you're a senior, I will have given you a degree in how to go out and have a very marketable skill that you can use. Like, you might be a history major for your classes, but I'm going to teach you how to show up on any set and not feel intimidated or like you don't belong there. And that was true for a lot of them. The ones that really cared and did want to do that have all gone on to do very successful things. I have a lot of nice success stories that have come out of it. And now those are the ones, the examples of ones who really wanted to lean into it and enjoyed it and got a lot of gratification out of it. I've had plenty as well that just, it was their job that they were doing and they couldn't care less.
Yeah.
But it was nice. And then, if I did happen to get a student or two that did have some experience, that was nice, because then I'm not starting at exactly zero. But it was always really gratifying for me personally too, to just watch them, start their journey and then be able to like what types of projects they would be able to, finish by the time they were done, and sort of what skill sets they had made. And that was one of the best parts of that job, was getting to see that journey of them take. And, when someone shows an interest in something and you feel like you've helped them grow it, it's always nice to watch what happens out of that.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
So what is some advice you would give to people that are, if like they're like just learning like Premiere, After Effects, cameras, all that? We were talking earlier about the cameras, and when you have a camera, you are smarter than your camera. And don't put it on auto.
Yeah. Well, so anybody who's like starting with that sort of stuff, if they're wanting to learn it, I mean, luckily in today's day and age, the internet has everything for you. You're going to find hours and hours of content that will show you how to
YouTube University.
I mean, yes. But I always find it tricky to like find a good video that someone will tell you what they're doing and show it to you without being condescending. Like, why does everybody have to be so condescending when you're showing me, you're offering your help to me? I don't really understand why you want to talk down to me about it. Like, why would I be watching if I knew how to do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there are some out there that like do that too. But for that, I would just say, understanding your gear, first of all, is going to be paramount, right? If you don't even understand what that tool is in your hand, like, you need to figure that out. So as my former students will tell you, if you ever ask any of them, anytime we'd get any type of new piece of gear in, I would read that manual front page to last page, all the way through the troubleshooting section and all that other stuff, because I wanted to know how that thing works inside and out, backwards and frontwards, and be like, okay, this is the thing. And that way, when I need to know, hey, why does it look like this or sound like this? Then I can understand where that setting is, why it's doing that, how I fix it, what the benefit versus, detraction, or what's the opposite of benefit? Doesn't matter. Yeah. But whatever what's the pros and cons of this particular setting, right? So I usually never let the camera make a lot of decisions for me or anything like that. I will always try and put it on manual. And then, if you don't understand the basics of shot composition or shot exposure and things like that, then you're going to be in a big trouble anyways. And it's going to show usually, which is fine, because in today's day and age in social media creation, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, and as far as like editing software and stuff like that, and motion graphics software and things, you've got to want to be able to sit there. It's a long thing. You can't just pick it up in 5 minutes. It's going to be a long time. And especially things like Premiere and After Effects, they just have so many things in them that it's just overwhelming to look at, right? That was always the first conversation I would have when I was teaching people to edit, was like, I know this looks like a lot, but we're going to use like 5 or 10 things in here most of the time. I know there's 3 million in here, but we're going to use like 10, and I'm going to show you where they are. And I've put them in bins where they're all nice and easy for you to get to and stuff. So, but once you sort of give somebody the keys of that car and they learn how to drive it, they're like, this is pretty slick, right? So then they're like, okay, now I'm moving around like I know what I'm doing. And watching that little turning the corner on that, you're like, okay, now you're ready to go. But it just comes with reps, you just kind of have to do it. And just like anything else, if you're excited about doing it and you feel that passion to do it, it will be not a chore for you to spend that time learning it, right?
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, yeah. Like you spent you spend an hour to like animate something. You're like, sure. Like, look at this, it rolls, and you're just so proud of yourself. And everyone else is like, that's great, it's 30 seconds. You're like, this took me 5 days.
I have a great example of that. So we were making these graphics for a live show that we recorded, and it was a Vegas theme. And so we wanted the lower third to animate out with a rolling casino chip. So like this. And my editor at the time, she spent so long getting that chip to like roll like you can look spin and spin, but like also spin like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like evenly or like make it spin uniformly and out at the right speed and all that. And I had left at like 5 o'clock on a Tuesday, and I come back in that Wednesday morning, and it looks like she's been in there like all night. Yeah. And she's super proud that she'd done it. And I was like, that's just like a couple little clicks of this thing. But she was one of those people who would just outwork her problem, right? Like I would like, here's the easy way around that. She's like, yes, but I have figured out, not just you were giving me a recipe. I figured out what all the ingredients are and how they all work.
And I made my own.
Yes, exactly. And I'm like, okay, that's exactly it, right? Like you just got to spend that time. But it's like anything else. If you want to be good, good at baseball, you're going to have to sit in a batting cage and take a lot of hits and a lot of misses until you figure out this is what it feels like and how it works and, all that other stuff. It's just reps like anything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. All right, let's talk about what you're doing now.
Okay.
So what are you doing? So you now you are out on your own, the triple double productions.
Yep.
What is that? Like, we already explained what it is, but like, where did the name come from?
Okay. Well, the name is, it's a basketball reference, and a triple double in basketball is when you've gotten double digits in 3 statistical categories. So like points and rebounds and assists. And what it's a hallmark of is having a really good excelling at a game in a lot of different categories and really contributing at a high level. And so because, it's basically a one-man band right now, although I do have some gig workers that do some things where my skill set is a little bit lacking. I have some people that come in and do that for me, but it's just a mindset of like trying to do things at a high level and do all of it sort of well without overextending yourself. And so yeah, I mean, this week alone, I did I did my first political ad this week.
That's fun.
Which was, it was definitely interesting to, see how people's stump speeches translate to, a video and stuff like that. And
with their pickup trucks. I just think of the Clinton ad. You go to the Clinton house and there's like a pickup truck.
But there was definitely like, this is my dog and kids and, like, here's me in my office and that kind of stuff. And but at the same time, it's interesting to get to, one of the things that's really nice about doing it the way I am now is it's not all one institution or company's things, right? Mm-hmm. Like when I had the job at Hendrix for 14 years, I made Hendrix content, right? Mm-hmm. Which is fine. And it was great and all that other stuff, but it's one thing, right? And so even in just a short amount of time I've been doing this, I've had to do businesses videos, corporate videos, nonprofit videos, live events for like weird things and it just exposes me to a whole lot of other different things, which is really another nice little part about it is I get to learn so much about a lot of different things rather than just this one thing, and so that's been a really nice learning experience and getting exposed to different environments. Although that's also been a challenge because I'm used to having one institution's culture about how the rate and style of business flows. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, when people don't respond to my email in like 2 or 3 days, I'm like, well, they must hate me and hate what I get, and they're like, oh yeah, no, I looked at that. I just don't care to email you back because it's not super important to us to get this done in like the next 2 days or something. And I'm like, oh, okay. But like, that's been a challenge is adjusting to everyone else's business flow and their timelines, you know? And so it's like, oh, okay, it's so weird because it's like if I don't get that immediate email back, I'm like, well,
I guess that's gone.
Yeah, I guess they're
like 3 months later, they're like, oh, hey, you sent this to us. We're ready now. And you're like,
and it looks great, Corinne. I'm like, oh, okay, I thought you hated me, but whatever, that's fine.
Like,
too.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. The best is like when you like send them the final stuff and they never acknowledge that they even got it.
Yeah.
And then like 3 months later, they're like, we have another job. And you're like, oh, I guess you did like it. Yeah, great.
Yeah. It's like, I want that feedback, positive or negative, and getting none of it. I always am like, it's got to be negative.
Yeah, they hate it. Yeah.
They fired me without even, they hated it so much they won't even call me.
Defend myself.
Yeah. It's not that at all, and I've had to get used to that a little bit, you know. And but it's been great, and like I said, getting a variety of projects is really nice. And then just you know, the networking that gets opened up from that as well. Like my first one was for a nonprofit, and when I showed up to shoot it, they were like, hey, go get your little lanyard that has your name and your table on it for lunch and stuff. And I was like, oh, well, I'll be working. And they were like, no, you need to sit down during lunch. Nothing's going to be happening. Go ahead and sit down. I was like, oh, okay.
All right.
I'll have some food. But then I sit down at this table and it's like all the board of directors of this charity. And they're like, and what do you do? And I'm like, so I tell them and stuff. And they're like, cool, let me have some of your business cards. And I was like, oh,
like,
okay.
Cool, thank you. Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then like a couple of weeks later, I get a phone call from one of them and stuff. And it's like, oh, awesome. But also like now I have another little branch out into my little tree here of what, you know, is going on for me. And it was just because they were watching me do my job in a area that I have no business being in otherwise. But there I was. And
if you're just enjoying a free lunch and you're like, there you go, business cards.
Yeah. And I didn't even have to pay for that lunch. Exactly. So, but yeah, it's been interesting in that way, but also like, you know, because I was very good and practiced at the actual video production portion of it, I realized pretty quickly that I needed to go to business school and do a lot of catch up, and getting to see how a variety of businesses go about their business has been some of that. And I'm not afraid to ask questions of people either. Like I was talking to you.
Yeah. I was like, what's your business model? Yeah. And I was like, that's a really good question. Yeah.
I was like, what are y'all doing around here? Why? Like, you know, why are the lights around here? And I was like, so that has been its own education, which is nice too. Because, you know, again, being in one spot for so long, you learn all of that and kind of get it mastered. And there's that security and safety of being in that one stable spot. But, you know, it doesn't allow for a lot of growth, you know, and so having something new and challenging just about every project is like helping me grow a lot in that area as well.
That's awesome. Well, good.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk to you about, because like the equipment, this will be we have two more questions.
Yeah.
So the equipment, so you basically did this again. So you basically grew up Hendrix to have like good equipment for 14 years.
Yeah.
And then you left and now you're starting over again from like, you know, working your own equipment up. So how's that going? And what advice do you have to give? Because I'm sure that there's a lot of people that are already going through that. So like, how do you start over?
Right. Well, it helps to know that you're starting over and where you're trying to get to when you're starting over, right? You at least have a goal in mind. When you have no idea, it's very daunting because you're like, I don't even know what I don't know and what I need or don't need and what's superfluous and what's necessary. And so, so just that in and of itself is handy. But I would say that, and I was actually very much looking forward to this conversation with you because I don't think we've nerded out about equipment just a whole lot in our time we've known each other. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this too. But, you know, for me, especially, it's like what you need is going to dictate what you know, what projects you're trying to do will dictate the gear you need for it. Right. So, so like I said, my first thing was a live event that needed to be live streamed and it's in a low light setting, right? So I'm going to need a camera that will run for a long time and can operate in low light, and then also can have battery power that I can hook into something because, you know, unless you want to have those giant, huge studio batteries on the back of a camera, And again, in that particular setting, in that chapel, it's a very small chapel. So we want to have a small footprint as possible so that we're not there, right? We want to be capturing it, but no one should know you're sort of in that space.
Yeah.
And so that informs a lot of those decisions. So then it was balanced against what kind of budget you have, right? And then how often you're going to need that stuff, right? So if you're going to be doing this every week, then sure, go ahead and invest in that because it's going to pay for itself pretty quickly. If it's just a one-off thing, you're probably going to want to rent that. But then what do I rent and why and all that other stuff? So, but yeah. So what I've tried to do now is for my own gear starting over, it's get back to basics so that I can have an everyday shooter, right? So for me, that's going to be a DSLR body. Or I'm way leaning into the mirrorless.
Mirrorless is out. I'm all about mirrorless.
Yeah, I know. And I'm getting converted slowly but surely. But yeah, so, that with a pretty long lens on it, a telephoto lens that I can get a lot of good coverage. But, I don't know if you've ever heard the term, you marry the lenses and date the bodies. Right? Yeah. So you really want to get into your ecosystem of what pleases you when you look at it, right? Some people like the way Nikon images look. Some people like the way Sony, some people like Canon, whatever, right? It's just whatever, is most pleasing to you, you should be in that ecosystem. But then, yeah, you want to get those glass pieces. And again, what types of things you do generally will dictate what you're going to need there. But like I tell anybody who ever asks me, in video and like visual world and audio world, it's really one of those instances where you get what you pay for. Like if you're going to spend $200 on your lens, it's going to look like a $200 lens. If you're going to spend $20,000 on it, it's going to look like that too. And you truly will get what you pay for. And if you have enough of those projects that it will be justified, then that's exactly what you should get. But that's why renting is also really nice as well, is because you get to sort of test out those things.
You can date it all.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's like speed dating.
Yeah.
Without having to commit too much to it. So, in that way, it's like, but I think that every photographer or person with like a handheld camera, mirrorless or DSLR, would probably tell you that a 50 millimeter is probably like the beginner lens, or I don't know, beginner's not the right word, but it's like the catch-all lens that does a lot of good things because it's right in that middle range of focal length. And so like a nice prime 50, I think they even call them nifty 50s and stuff.
50s, I know. And it's got to go down like 1.4. Yeah, you
got to have that 1.4 aperture on there. Otherwise, because if you're going to have that prime, that's what you have it for, is to get that depth of field that you can get. So, like a nice one, like you spend a $1,000 or $2,000 on a body and then start investing in those really nice lenses. As long as you live in that ecosystem later, and your shutter starts to wear out and all that other stuff, you can do that. But those lenses, if you take care of them, you can have them forever.
I still use the lenses I had that I moved here with. 2003. Yeah.
And they're like, as long as you take care of them, they will reward you forever and ever. And then you just replace that body once it starts to wear out, and it just keeps going. Yeah.
Yeah. Even the mirrorless, because the Nikon will have an adapter, because the mirrorless on the Nikon's like literally like the hole for the lens is like this big, and so like I'm terrified of changing the lens because I'm like it's just like a dust magnet,
I never thought of it.
Yeah, you're just like oh my god, I have to do this real quick. Like
you got like a vacuum.
I know, you're like oh god, don't get the dust.
It's funny because people will think, oh, okay, well, I've got this like kit that comes with the thing and it says the 18 to 55 millimeter, right? Mm-hmm. And this would be a thing that I would show to my students all the time. I would be like, here's the kit lens that came with this. Put it in this hand. Now here's the 24 to 105, Sigma art one over here, and feel how heavy this one is versus the kit. Lens. And they're like, oh, okay, why? And I'm like, because this one is mostly plastic and plastic parts. And this one is real glass, real thick glass with like metal parts in there. And this will last forever. And this one will last for probably 2 years.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And then like those, like it's not a 2.8 like fixed. So it's like, if you're zooming in, like they're like all of a sudden the aperture is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and like you're not going to get in as much light as you need. And so, having those lights, like a lens that is a fixed 2.8, like that's.
So what What's your take on lenses and body? Let's hear it.
Yeah, no, I do. I love lenses. Yeah, I still have the lenses when I moved here in 2003 at the newspaper. I still have them. I still use them.
That's cool.
Yeah, and because you can like the lens, and again, yeah, a fixed 2.8. Just like those lenses, because like when you have a lens and it's not a fixed 2.8, even the ones on these cameras don't do it. As you zoom in, like the aperture gets smaller and smaller and smaller, so less light gets in. Yeah. And that's the first thing I do when people photograph like basketball, when they're at like their kids' games or like trying to shoot football. They're like, when I zoom in, it doesn't look as good. And you're like, well, okay. And you try to explain it to people and they just look at, you can just see, they're just like, what? And I'm like, well, it's because your lens sucks, and you don't want to say that. Yeah. You're like, well, your lens could be better. And they're like, well, how much is your lens? I was like, it's like $2,500. Like, exactly. I was like, yeah,
my car costs.
I know. I was like, yeah, but you don't need this, but here's how you can kind of,
yeah,
get a monopod.
And people who, don't come from a background of that, and you're trying to explain that to them, always like, okay, well, it's like, when I'm looking at you like this and my eyes are wide open, I'm sure a lot of light is coming in, but I can kind of see everything. But then when I start to squint at you, my eyes get smaller. Yeah. Less light is coming in, even though I can focus on that farther thing. Now, if I could have the squint without having to make my eyes, that's what this lens does, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, and I'm like, yes, it's
there. You go. Yeah.
But we were talking earlier too about the difference between gain and ISO on different cameras.
Oh my God. Yeah. The cameras.
Quarters versus I don't know what do you call a DSLR?
A mirrorless. It's like a mirrorless camera.
What do you call that body style versus like a camcorder? What is that? I don't know.
It's a DSLR, but
I would just call it by its name. Right?
Yeah, it's a digital SLR. It's a single lens reflex. And so then the mirrorless, when you bring in the mirrorless, I'm like, it's a mirrorless camera.
Yes.
There it is. It's like,
but it's like when I would have to explain to them, my students, the difference between the two, right? Because you're explaining the exposure triangle, your shutter speed, and your ISO, and then your aperture. And when we would go for it on the camcorders, they're like, well, where's the ISO? And I'm like, well, there's not one. They call it gain on here. And they're like, okay, well, then why don't the numbers like correlate? And I'm like, I don't know.
Nothing correlates. It drove me crazy.
But then what they would do, they would notice that when those telephoto lenses on those XA55s, when you would get doing that, your aperture then starts to creep up as you start to zoom in. Mm-hmm. So your lowest one you can get to is only like, 4.8 or something like that. And they're like, how come I can't get back down to there? I'm like, because now you squished it. Yes. I was like, it has to do like that. And they're like, oh, okay. But then I was also like, but for a prosumer camcorder, mostly that aperture is just light. It's not really giving you the depth of field like a DSLR lens will do, right? Like where it's actually, giving you that bokeh and whatnot. Yeah. I was like, it's not defining the scene that well. It's just sort of how open the thing.
It's the light coming in. Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I'm like, you're never going to get a rack focus out of this. And if you do, it's because we have like cranked up the thing so high, the gain and everything else, so that we can get a lot of light, but otherwise it's not going to let you try it. Although I will say, with our 4K one that we used there towards the end in candlelight, we would get some really nice rack focuses during the live stream of that. And people would always like, ooh and ah, because it would go from like a candle that was on the pew to like the Christmas tree way back there and stuff. And they'd be like, oh, it's like so Christmassy and stuff.
I know. And you get all the reactions.
Yes.
Heart emoji, heart emoji.
Yeah. Sometimes that was my favorite part of doing those live streams, because after a while, I would let my seniors direct the show. Mm-hmm. Like you'd start as a freshman. And when you're a freshman, your job was to run all the gaff tape.
Like, here's your gaffer's tape. Yeah.
And you're going to do all the grunt work. And then the next year, you're going to be able to punch graphics or run a camera. And then when you're a senior, then you'll have had enough experience that you've been barked at over the headset, running the cam, that what shots should be happening. So then when I could leave that to a student to direct, and I just kind of was watching the live stream, I would get to be Hendrix in the group chat and like respond to everybody who'd be talking and stuff. And it was very fun to just be able to be like, yeah, Merry Christmas to you too. And they'd be like, oh, that's my granddaughter. She's singing her solo. And I'd be like, yeah, good for you and stuff like that. And so that was always fun to connect with community like that and get to interact with your audience, which is not something, you don't usually get that direct feedback from your audience like that until you're in those types of scenarios.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. Okay. This was the one I always ask. Yeah. What advice would you give to someone who is just starting out? So just starting out on their video journey.
Yeah. So of course, like anybody else will say to you, is you should just do it. But then what I would say is, figure out what gets you up in the morning and wants you to pick up that camera and just do those. And then once you have identified with that sort of profile or style or whatever it is, types of projects you want to do, find people who do it really well, the ones that you like, and rip it off, steal it all.
Yeah.
Like just try and do that, because in your attempt to copy Brooks' style, you're going to get your own style going, right? And it might be influenced by Brooks, but you're not going to get Brooks just because you're not Brooke. And so, if yours is Tarantino, or, you like Roger Deakins' way of, doing films and stuff, try and do that. It's a really good exercise to just try and go rip that off. We didn't talk much about Filmmakers Club, but that would be something that I would tell them all the time is, just if you like this one style of movie that David Fincher makes, go try and make that. You're going to fall hilariously short, but you will learn a lot about the craft and how he does it, because now you're not just passively watching his movies, you're actively watching it. I would tell them, go sit down with a notepad and be like, okay, he makes cuts this often. He likes to put the camera here for this. Why does he like, or she or whoever, why do they make those decisions? And once you start understanding why people do that, then again, you start applying that to your own thing, and your project's going to be different than that one. And so you're going to take that lesson and apply it in a different environment. And now you have made a new piece of art that's like that, but also yours. And then later on in life, you'll go back and watch the things you first made, and you'll be like, wow, that's like so hacky. And like, it's obvious like this. But then by the time you watch your progression, you'll be like, okay, here's where I started to find my own voice and start to do things, even though they're still heavily influenced by the people that, whose examples I saw. It still is turning into my thing. Right. And that's also a really nice journey to watch people do, is sort of develop their own voice and their own sort of style and get to see that. But, yeah, that would be my advice, is just start doing it. And then when people ask you what you do and stuff, like, say it. Be like, that's what I do. And like, it's so funny. James Cameron has a quote that's like, the first time you direct something, guess what? Now you're a director. You're a director.
Ta-da.
Yeah, like that's it. No, there's no like, form you have to fill out. No government agency is going to give you a license that says director on it. I mean, sure, when you get up there, you have to join the Directors Guild and stuff. But like, even that's just some fees you pay, right? Like they don't like check and make sure you can direct or something like that. And so, fake it till you make it. But as soon as you start making it, you've made it.
I know. That's the thing. It's like when you get the first job you get paid, you're a professional. Yeah. So you're like, I'm a professional photographer, I got paid today, you're a professional.
Yeah. And that's what I would tell my students for the long time too, is I would be like, I have hired you to do it. You are now a professional editor, and you can put that on your resume that you got paid to do that. And of course, I would also be like, anytime you work on a project for me, keep that footage if you want for your reel. That is your stuff. Like, you made it. Yeah. And so like, I didn't make it. I told you what I wanted and you went and got it for me, but you made it. So like, that's your thing. So, and you should take that if this is something you want to do and continue on with it. One of my students was like, my first reel was like all of your shots and stuff. And I was like, great, but now it's something. I was like, but it's something else completely now, but that's how you had to start. And look at what you're doing now. And it's, you would not even think to put my stuff in your reel anymore, because you don't need it. You've gone on to do all these other things. And it's not because somebody like, you're a director now, you just are, it's like, go do it. So, anybody that's starting out, just you're already doing it. If you have an inkling to go do it, you're already ahead of the curve. Yeah. And then, in today's day and age of social media and TikTok and short things, like everybody wants it to look like you shot it on a phone anyway.
Yeah, right.
Like, and I've started to see a really big influx of like people wanting things to look like 90s on VHS tapes now too.
Oh, that's funny.
So like they're trying to make it look gross,
retro,
and grimy, and I'm a big, we were just talking how, I like the nice cameras to make nice, clean, crisp images and things like that. And to see them like sully it all up, I'm like, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Why?
We fought to get past.
Yeah, I know.
Going back.
Don't go back.
We don't want VHS anymore. We have streaming now. It's 4K. Why would you want that?
That's hilarious.
They're like, no, I want the little play thing to like be in the top corner with the like vertical bands going across.
Like, like that. Yeah.
You're like, it shouldn't look like your grandma recorded it off the TV on Saturday night, but that's what they like. And
that's hilarious.
It was interesting getting to work with college students all the time, because you're constantly seeing what like the new like trends and things. like the first time that they started wearing like the mom jeans with the really thick like things that we used to wear in the 90s and stuff, I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
But you know, then I think that we used to wear clothes that made us look like we were in the 70s. And
Yeah, I used to wear. Yeah, I had a bunch of 70s clothes, and like I would even borrow my mom's clothes that she had from the 70s.
Exactly.
Yeah, and my dad's flannels.
like, I think we've actually aged out of the Nirvana thing now. Like, I think Nirvana t-shirts aren't as in vogue as they were like 2 or 3 years ago. But like when that started happening,
Yeah, that was funny.
well, it's good. But then I was like, I used to wear a Led Zeppelin shirt and I didn't grow up.
I know, if you were like, name 3 songs.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks
This
for
has
having
been
me.
so much fun. I've had a great time.
Me too.
Okay. One more. Let's tell them call to action about your, how can they find Triple Dog Productions?
Triple Double Production.
Practice Triple Dog. I like Triple Dog. I think that's another company that we use their equipment.
Yeah. So tripledoubleproductions.com. I'm on social media, on Instagram, on Triple Double Prod. And then I'm on Facebook as well. YouTube, Vimeo, everywhere that you can find. I'm not on TikTok yet. I should probably be on TikTok.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
But I can't bring myself to it. I guess that's the old man in me where I'm like, no, I won't. But
there's a whole over 40 TikTok. You'll love it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm on it.
Okay, I'll have to give it a look. But yeah, that's how people can find me. Yeah, just visit my website if you'd like to get anything going. You can fill out a quote request and we'll get it done.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Travis.
Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thank you, guys. See you next time.
Bye, y'all.